So yeah, so you already know, right? Terraform. So one of the great benefits of the Terraform is that it supports thousands of providers. So once you learn the Terraform core concept, you can write code to create and manage the infrastructure across the all cloud providers. Now you understood, right? This one, guys. So overview of a Terraform. Terraform you already know, right? The clarifications, infrastructure as a code. So work requirement, learning from this work requirement. So examples of a single service. So set of resources, virtual machine, database, S3, AWS users must be created with the exact similar configuration in dev stage production environment, right? So once you build the code in the dev environment, it will be easy to reuse the code in the staging and production environment also, right, guys?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah. So basics of infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as a code is the managing and provisioning of infrastructure through code instead of a manual process. Okay. So benefits of infrastructure as a code. What are the benefits? Speed of the infrastructure management, low risk of a human errors, version control, easy collaboration between the tasks. Right. Choosing right IAC tool. Terraform is the right IAC tool. You already know. Yeah. How you can connect, how to build the infra. You already know, right? How to choose the IAC. So use case requirement organization, installing Terraform, you already know the install, just download the binary code. Terraform installation on Mac and Linux, so choosing ID for the Terraform. So you can write the Terraform code in the notepad and it will be not have any impact, but a slower development, limited features, right? And if you want to try to create. So need of a, one second guys. Yeah, need of a better software. So which software is better, guys? There is a need of a better application that allows you to develop code faster. So which one? VS Code. Okay. So what are the options? So there are many popular source code editors available in the market. So what are the Sublime text editor also you can use, VS Code also you can use, Atom also we can use, Eclipse also we can use, right? Editor for this course. So we are going to make use Visual Studio as a primary editor in this course. Advantages. What are the advantages? Support Windows and Mac, supports wide variety of programming languages, supports many extensions. That's the reason. So we are also using the Visual Studio Code. So using Notepad, using Visual Studio Code. Okay. So Visual Studio Code extension. So understanding the basics of extensions are add-ons that allows you to customize and enhance your experience in Visual Studio by adding new features or integrating existing tools. They offer wide range of functionality related to colors, autocomplete, report to spelling errors, etc. Okay, so it will recognize the spelling errors and functionality related colors, autocomplete, right? So Terraform extension. HashiCorp also provides the extension of the Terraform for Visual Studio Code. So what is that code, guys? .tf. Okay. If you see, if you execute, if you install the Terraform, you see the color. You see the colors of the code and functionality colors. Everything will be showing, guys. Okay. Setuping the lab. So create AWS account. You have already AWS account. Authentication and authorization. Authorization purpose. Understanding the basis before we start working on managing environments through Terraform. The first important step is related to authenticate and authorization. So Terraform, how will authenticate and authorize it? So authentication first, right? So how we can authenticate with the Terraform through AWS, guys? Access key and secret key.
Access
Access
keys.
key and secret key.
So basics of authentication and authorization. Authentication is the process of verifying who is a user. Who is user? For example, Terraform is the user. Authorization is the process of verifying what they have to access. So authentication is who is accessing. Authorization is what type of services we need. Example, Alias is the super user. Alias is a user or Terraform is a user in AWS with no access to any service. So Terraform need access credentials with the relevant permissions to create and manage the environments. Okay, user Bob password having the all the permissions. Access credentials. Depending on the provider, the type of the access credentials would be changed. Provider access credentials. AWS access key and secret key. GitHub tokens. Kubernetes config file and credentials config, DigitalOcean tokens. So for AWS, for connecting the AWS, what we need, guys? What are the credentials we need? Access key and
access key and secret.
first virtual machine through Terraform. So revising the basics of EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. In short, it's a name of a virtual server that you can launch in AWS. Okay. So you already know, right? Provider provides offers multiple regions in which we can create our resources. You need to decide region which Terraform would be created to the resource. Created to the resource. Okay. So you need to decide the region which Terraform create the resources. So virtual machine configuration. A virtual machine would be have its own set of configurations, CPU, memory, storage, operating system. While creating the VM through Terraform, so you will need to define these. Provider and resources. Basics of a providers. Terraform supports multiple providers depending on what type of infrastructure we want to launch. So we have to use appropriate providers accordingly. So launching learning one provider plugins. A provider plugin is the Let's Terraform manage an external API. What is that? Provider plugin. What is the provider plugin? AWS provider plugin. So what is the documentation, guys? Registry.terraform.io. The registry.terraform.io. Okay. So browse providers. So which provider, guys? You want a AWS provider. So right, you see the plugin. So HashiCorp AWS version plugin is so 5.92.0. The plugin is 5.92.0 is the plugin. The provider a plugin lets Terraform manage an external API. So when we run Terraform init, plugin required for the provider are automatically downloaded as saved locally in .terraform directory. Yes, understood? So provider plugin. A provider is a plugin that lets Terraform manage an external API. Manager external API. When we can run Terraform init, so when we can run Terraform init, plugins required for the provider to automatically download and saved locally in a Terraform directory. So once you run the Terraform it, right, the .terraform file will create it, directory will create it, right? So learning to resource block describes one or more infrastructure objects. So resources, what are the resources? AWS underscore is the resources. AWS ALB is the resource. AM-user is the resources digital version, these all are the resource blocks describes one or more infrastructure objects. So resource block, a resource blocks declare as a resource of the given type with a given local mission. What is that? A resource block. What is this? This is the resource block. A resource block declares a resources of a given type. What are the resources? AWS instance is the resource type, given type, with a given local name. What is the given local name? My EC2 is my name. So what is the given type of the resource? AWS underscore instance. Okay, AMI equal to AMI and instance type equal to T2 micro. So resource type and resource name. Resource type, this is the resource type. This is the resource name together serve as a identifier for the given resource and so must be in a queue. It must be in a queue. Okay. Point to note. You can only use the resource that are supported by a specific provider. You can use you can use the resources that are that are supported by the specific provider. In the below example, provider of Azure is used with the resources of AWS instances. So what is that? The provider is AWS RM, Azure RM, provider Azure. Resources you are trying to launch AWS instance and a web. So it is you can only use the resources that are supported by the specific provider. So in the below example, provider of Azure is used with the resources of AWS instance. Okay, important question. The core concept standard syntax remains similar across all the providers. So if you learn the basics, you should be able to work with all the providers easily. So Terraform looks good now, right? So do I have to learn Terraform for each provider? Yes. So issues and bugs with the providers. A provider that is maintained by the AC Corp doesn't mean it does not know it has no bugs. It can happen that there are inconsistencies from your output and things so mentioned in the documentation. So you can raise a issue at a provider page. So provider something like missing details about KMS in the settings manager, same like as. So relax and have a so meme before proceeding. That stupid work you do when someone's mopping a floor and you know you are gonna walk over it, but you want to them to see how sorry you are to be walking over it. So may it's so you make yourself looks like you are walking over hot lava. So providers. So provider maintains. There are three primary types of provider tiers in the Terraform. What are the provider tiers? So official, partner, community. So owned and maintained by the AC Corp, partner owned and maintained by the Terraform company that maintains a direct partnership with AC Corp, community owned and maintained by the individual contributors. Provider namespace. And namespaces are used to help user identity to organize the organization or a publishers responsible for the integration. Okay, important learning. So Terraform requires explicit resources information for any provider that are not HashiCorp maintained using a new syntax in the required providers nested block instead of the Terraform configuration block. So provider AWS, region AWS uses EC2 access key and secret key. So this is HashiCorp maintained. So Terraform requires explicit source information for any providers that are not HashiCorp maintained using a new syntax in the required providers nested block inside the Terraform configuration block. So this is the Terraform required providers are. For example, required providers are AWS. We can provide the AWS provider digital version. So you were taken non-HashiCorp maintained. So HashiCorp maintained providers and non-HashiCorp maintained providers. So if you HashiCorp maintained provider, you can write this. If not, if the providers are not maintained by the HashiCorp, you can write this like Terraform destroy. So what is destroy, guys? Learning to destroy the resources. If you keep the infrastructure running, you will get charged for it. You will get charged for it. Guys, 1 second. Yeah, guys, sorry. Yeah. So learning to destroy resources. Learning to destroy resources. Now you understood how to provision. Guys, the concept is how to provision. The terminology is most important, guys. Okay. So provision. So what is that? So provision or building nothing but a infrastructure creation. So decommission. So decommission is nothing but removing or deleting the infra. So removing or deleting the infra here. So Terraform init initialization. So all are small guys. So Terraform init, Terraform plan, guys. Speak out. Terraform plan and Terraform frame. Terraform apply. So Terraform apply. So this is nothing but a installation is nothing but a Terraform plugin will be installed. API plugin. API plugin will be installed and through the access key secret key we can authenticate with the AWS. Okay. So Terraform plan is nothing but a blueprint. What is that? So blueprint of the infra what you are trying to creating. So apply is nothing but it will create the infra. It will create the infra. So what is Terraform? Terraform destroy. Okay. So Terraform destroy. VS Code, Visual Studio Code. Yeah. So this is right. This is variable information. So this is a versions. What this version? So version is nothing but a Terraform. Required version is 1.0. So required providers also. So in the versions, what we mentioning? So you are mentioning the Terraform version and the HCR provided required AWS version also we are providing. Okay. In the providers, what we can provide? We can provide it is a AWS or something like it is a Azure or it is a what is a. So versions is nothing but a Terraform version and provider is nothing but a so AWS provider or Azure, whatever the providers. So variables is nothing but a the hard coded value. The values will be mentioned in the variables. So we can call it in the main.tf. We can call it in the main.tf. Okay. So new window. 1 second, guys. New window. This is the new window. File open folder desktop. Mm, Yeah, guys. So here you see, so Terraform, the versions are the Terraform. Required version is 1.0. Required providers, AWS, HashiCorp, Cloud Init for the Cloud Init, guys. So here, so this is, we don't need this one. Okay. So this is the versions of the, so this is our Terraform code, guys. What this is our Terraform code. Yeah. So main.tf, you see, guys, so this is the our infra. So Terraform state. So this is the S3, guys. We are Terraform state, remote state. The remote state will be copied under the S3 bucket. The Terraform remote state, so remote state SSL and remote state. This is internal subnet. So internal subnet, we are creating internal subnet, public subnet, public subnet. So right, AWS app AMI. So we are creating the. So this is the AMI app AMI AWS AMI. So this is the AMI, something like, so we are creating the, yeah, so we are creating the, so this is the module. So we are using the module. So BJS test LSP or source code. This is the module source code. So we are creating the, this is the template module. So we are creating the databases here, right? So LO subnet, ALB subnet, so LO references, yeah, RabbitMQ, RabbitMQ also here we are creating. App AZ also we are creating the subnets. So nights, nodes, instance type, health checkup type, so base objects, so customer databases, everything, data center code, environment, so right, Jasper node, product tag, service tag, SSH. So right, so this is the, so this is the code, main code, right, guys? So we created a the entire infrastructure, the dev infrastructure in this code. And so we provided the DNS records, we provided the DNS records and providers, variables we can take it variable from the variables and versions. So this is one type of a stack. This stack is nothing but a dev environment, QA environment, production environment. So we can copy this and we can modify accordingly whatever you want. Guys, understood? This is nothing but a one Terraform dev stack. So Terraform dev stack. Understood? Yeah, you can also try to create a Terraform stack, guys. So what is that? The Terraform stack. So you can create two EC2 instances. Okay, two EC2 instances and one IAM user with group and attach policy attach the policies to the something like a admin role policies, admin admin roles policies you can attach, guys. This is the task, guys. This is the task for you. You can create a stack, the stack like dev stack. The name of the stack is dev stack, and you can create these, guys, these two. And okay, S3 is not completed, right? So we can discuss the S3, then you can add the S3, then we can add the VPC. Okay, so for example, this is a complete stack. A dev stack contains for example, main.tf, uh, variables.tf, versions.tf, and providers.tf. So these all are the, so for example, this is the dev stack. Okay, this dev stack. Yeah. So what this is, guys? So this is a dev stack. For example, this is the dev stack. Is a QA stack. So this is a prod stack. Prod stack. Guys, understood? So this is dev stack. This is QA stack. This is a prod stack. So these three are the Terraform stacks, guys. So you have a three Terraform environments. Okay, this is the QA. This is QA. This is production. This is QA, right? This is QA, and this is production. Okay, so dev stack. So this stack contains the EC2 instances. So something like this stack contains two EC2 instances, VPC, subnet, S3, and RDS. So this stack contains the infra. What is infra? So the infra, guys. This is your infra of a stack, dev stack, QA stack, and a production stack. Okay. So these are the stacks. So you have the, this is the infra. This is the infra we are building on this stack, right? Yeah. So if you execute the Terraform apply. So Terraform apply, it will apply all the changes. It will create a, so whatever the stack contains, right, it will create everything, right? So it will create everything. Yeah, it will create everything. So if you do the Terraform destroy, what is that, guys? Terraform destroy. if you apply the Terraform destroy, if you apply the Terraform destroy, what is that, guys? Terraform. So Terraform destroy. So in this Terraform destroy, so this is Terraform destroy. This is also Terraform destroy. So when we execute the Terraform destroy, what it will happen, guys? What it will happen? So we have already rows. Yeah, this is the one now. Yeah, guys. So if you apply this Terraform destroy here, okay, so it will destroy all these infra. If you run the test Terraform destroy, two instances will be removing, and VPC also will be removing, subnet also will be removing, S3 also will be removing, RDLs also will be removing. Because of if you run the Terraform destroy, if you run the Terraform destroy, so whatever the we have infra, it will automatically deleted everything. So but I don't want to delete everything. I want to delete a particular particular resources. For example, I want to delete VPC only or something like two EC2 instances, right? I don't want to delete all the instances. So you can delete only one instance in one instance, right? So how you can delete it, guys? How you can delete it? Tell me, guys, understood? Prem,
Yes, sir.
yeah. What is the way? What are the ways to destroy only one EC2 instance in this stack? Prem, Lakshmi,
Sir, no idea, sir.
no idea.
You said if you
Hmm?
if you type Terraform destroy, everything will be destroyed.
Everything will be destroyed. I don't want to destroy everything. I want to destroy a particular resource, means particular service. How I can destroy S3, how I can destroy EC2, how I can destroy VPC only on particular service. Yeah. So learning to destroy resources. If you keep the infrastructure running, you will get charged for it. Hence, it is important for us to also know on how we can delete the infrastructure resources created via Terraform. So if you apply the destroy, right? If you apply the destroy, it will automatically delete the two EC2 instances. I don't want to delete the two EC2 instance. I want to delete only one instance. Approach one, destroy all. Terraform destroy allows us to destroy all the resources that are created within the folder, within the a folder. So Terraform destroy, it will automatically delete everything. I don't want to destroy everything. I want to destroy a particular service. Approach to, so Terraform destroy, if destroy with a hyphen target flag. What is that, guys? Hyphen target flag. Terraform destroy with hyphen target flag allows us to destroy specific resources. Allows us to destroy specific resources. Right, here you see Terraform destroy hyphen target AWS underscore instance dot my EC2 instance. What is that, guys? So Terraform destroy a particular service. You can use the hyphen target AWS underscore instance dot myec2.com. Yes, understood. So Terraform destroy with the target. The target option can be used to focus on the Terraform attention on how the subset of the resources combination of resource types and local resource names. What is that? Combination of resources size and local resource name. What are the resources type? AWS underscore instance is the resource type. AWS underscore GitHub underscore repository. So what are the local norms? My EC2 example. So desired state or current state. So desired state, Terraform's primary function is to create, modify, and destroy the infrastructure resources to match the desired state of described of the Terraform configuration. The resources. So AWS underscore instance, we are creating the AWS underscore instances, and AMI instance type, we will provide it. Then it will automatically take in the register the infrastructure. So infrastructure, current state. What is the current state, guys? The current state is the actual state of the actual state of the resources that is currently deployed. The resources AWS underscore instance my EC2 AMI. So this is the current state. Important pointer. Terraform tries to ensure that the deployed infrastructure is based on the desired state. The deployed structure is designed on the belief state. If there is a difference between the two, Terraform plan presents a description of the changes necessary to archive to desired the state. Current state, get back to a desired state. Provider versioning. So provider plugins are the released separately from the Terraform itself. They have different set of version numbers. So explicitly setting provider versions using the Terraform init. So if a version argument is not specified, the most recent provider will be downloaded during the maintenance, meaning the installation video. For a product for a product use, you should contain the applicable provider version via configuration to customer. Ensure to the new versions with breaking changes will not be automatically installed. Okay, Terraform required providers AWS underscore. We are providing the explicit providers, right? Arguments of a specifying provider. So there are multiple ways to specifying the version of the provider. Uh, So greater than 0, greater than or equal to version, less than equal to version, any version 2.0, any version between 2.10 to 2.13. So dependency log file. Guys, this is most important. Dependency log file. So Terraform dependency log file allows us to log a specific version of the provider. So if a particular provider already has a selection recorded in the log file, the Terraform will I have always reselect that version for the installation, even if a newer version has been become available. You can you can override that behavior by adding the upgrade option when you run the Terraform application. Okay, you can override that the behavior of the by adding hyphen upgrade option by hyphen upgrade option when you run Terraform under cloud computing also. Terraform refresh, understanding the challenges. Terraform can create an infrastructure based on the configuration specified. It can be happen the infrastructure get modified manually. Understanding the challenges. The demonstration of the Terraform refresh command will check the latest state of your infrastructure and update the status file accordingly. The points to note: you should not typically need to use this command because Terraform automatically platform performs a same refreshing action as part of the creating as part of the creating creating a plan of both in Terraform plan and Terraform apply commands. Understanding the usage. So the information refers the information the information refresh command is deprecated in the newer version of the Terraform. So the refresh also option for the Terraform plan and Terraform apply was introduced in Terraform v15.0. So provider authentication configuration. So understanding the basics. So at the stage when you have manually hard coding the access secret keys within the provider, all the working solution, but it's not a optional from security point of view. So right, we don't need to pass these access and secret key. So we want to our code to run successfully without hard coding the secrets in the provider block. So right, provider AWS region, resources AWS underscore ELV, EIP, Elastic IP, LV load balancing. So better approach, AWS provides can source credentials, can other settings can be shared configuration in the configuration files. So provide AWS shared configuration file, shared configuration files, shared profile. Users resources are so AWS EAP, AB, EAP. Digital we don't need. AWS CLI. AWS CLI allows customer to manage AWS resources directly from the CLI. So right, when you configure access secret keys in the AWS CLI, the location in which these credentials stored in the same different location that need the Terraform such as the credentials from default configuration. If shared files lines are not added to provider block, by default Terraform will locate illustrate the files home config files credential config files will be Mac. Upper user profile, AWS user profile. So user profile is the AWS general AWS dot credentials dot AWS profile. So AWS CLI. So AWS CLI allows you to manage the resources directly through CLI when you configure the access secret key. This one already done. Lecture format from the Terraform course. Guys, now you understood, right? Guys,
Yes, sir.
yeah, you can start destroying. So how you can start destroying? You can create a two infrastructures. One is data. You can create a two one infrastructure, two services. One is a VPC, another one is IAM. Okay. So we'll continue from tomorrow, guys. So guys, we'll take the class tomorrow definitely.